Hi, Mark Gilbert here. Thanks for clicking in. For the next few minutes, we're going to be talking about what is a practical spirituality. Now, like all our videos, this is designed to give you tools and ideas to assist you with our spiritual evolution. If this is helpful to you in any way, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It lets YouTube know that you like what we're doing here. So here you are watching a video entitled, What is a Practical Spirituality? And I have to make an assumption that there's a part of you that's seeking an answer to that question. And that part of you is someone who says, I'm moving through this material, physical life, but I'm called to a spiritual side beyond this. And so I'm looking for some spirituality that's not the old dogmatic religion, but something that allows me to connect with something beyond this world of form, and has practical tools and skills for me to use that I can employ in my everyday life. If that resonates with you in the least bit, then you're already sort of answering the question yourself, in the sense that a practical spirituality is one that recognizes that you and I live simultaneously in two worlds. We live in this day-to-day physical world where we recognize that we're this unique individual who was born way back when. We've moved through these life experiences to this point in time, and that we're going to continue beyond here to some point in the future when we'll pass forward from this physical form. And so this whole timeline that we're moving through is embodied with memories and thoughts and feelings. Yet in this is a sense that we are greater than this, that we're connected to more than this. And so we want a spirituality that recognizes we're living in both this timeline of the material world, but that we're greater than that. We're part of a spiritual world or a non-material world. And so a practical spirituality is one that acknowledges those two aspects of our being. A practical spirituality also has a second part to it, where it gives us tools and techniques that we can use for both bettering our physical material life and draw us into a greater expansive awareness of our spiritual life. So the tools are practical in both areas. What kind of tools are we talking about in the world of the physical? Well, when we move through the physical world, we know that we hit road bumps, that there are things that are going to be less than what we wanted. In the Buddhists, they say all life is suffering. And I think all of us at some point or another have suffered. And many times those sufferings draw us into a greater sense of spirituality and a wanting to expand beyond the limitations of this individual life. But a practical spirituality recognizes that we're going to hit these roadblocks, and they're going to give us some tools and techniques for dealing with death, divorce, job loss, health challenges, and all of the other things that tend to cause us to struggle. They're going to give us techniques that allow us to make a better life for ourselves, whether it is healing ourselves when we're ill, or helping us move through those challenges and speed bumps that I'm talking about. We want techniques that address day-to-day real life. And those techniques are going to help us make this life better. One where we're not simply surviving this human experience, but we're thriving. We're moving to a greater and higher expression of ourselves on the planet. So this practical spirituality addresses that humanness, but it also calls us into evolving to that higher and best person that we can be. That when we look at our spiritual nature, a practical spirituality is going to call us with tools and techniques that allow us to grow into a greater and greater awareness of our spiritual nature. And those tools and techniques can be things like affirmations, meditation, affirmative prayer, other things like that are practical skills we can employ in our day-to-day material life, but they draw us into transcending the material life and moving into the spiritual life, into that greater non-material life. But they'll also be rational for us. They're techniques that we can use use our rational mind, and they build on the experience of something greater. Our rational mind tends to want to question a lot of what's going on, and so we want techniques that will give us the experiences and reinforcement that we can say, well, this was useful, and it allowed me to grow. It gave me an experience of the divine or God or spirit that I didn't have before, and my having that experience is addressing my rational mind's questioning about, is there some life beyond the physical form? And so a practical spirituality is going to build on our rational thoughts and use it as a technique for evolving and growing into a greater awareness of our spiritual nature. Another key characteristic of a practical spirituality is that assist with your spiritual evolution. A few minutes ago, I was talking about the fact that we were on this timeline as a human, going through this human experience from birth to into our future, and that we're full with the memories and the experiences of our life and so forth. But that a practical spirituality ties us to that spiritual nature that transcends that human timeline in all of our life. Well, in that very nature of moving us off of the timeline and our humanness and into more in our spiritual nature, that actually is contributing to us evolving into becoming the highest and best person that we can be. Both employing techniques to make this material life the best and techniques that move us into the spiritual nature are both characteristics of evolving spiritually, and I want you to see that. Yet a related factor is that a practical spirituality calls us to be of service, because if we recognize and grow into seeing that everything is one and that we're interconnected to all that is, then we become recognizing that our true nature is to give back to the one, because in giving to the one, we are really giving to ourselves in a circuitous way, that the very nature by giving to you gives to me. When you receive, your receiving as a part of your connectedness to me allows us to experience that oneness. One thing I'd like to stress is that a practical spirituality is not about religion. Religion, in my mind, is about a institution with dogmatic rules and teachings, and they say this is the one true path, and that there are ways in which you need to follow the path which are specified by us. In my mind, that is something that's served our evolutionary path, but it's also something that we need to transcend. A practical spirituality is one that recognizes that we're all part of the one, but that we're all unique expressions of the one. Hence, our special spiritual needs are unique from person to person. Hence, there is not one individual path that's going to fit everybody. There are many paths to the divine. There are many paths to the truth. And if you are encountering a truth that works for you, you've got to be very careful that you don't then turn around and say, this is the one path for us all to go on. Because a practical spirituality recognizes that its practical nature has a built-in flexibility for the uniqueness of every person. And that what works for me and what I need for my path may not necessarily be the same things that are needed for you and your path, and vice versa. Hence, we've got to not push our beliefs upon each other. That's not to say that we can't be spiritual teachers and offer the wisdom, much as like I feel like I'm doing in these videos, to assist others, but I've always said, I'm not here to tell you this is the one thing to do. Yes, I'm a New Thought minister, and yes, I have a particular set of teachings that have served me, but even those in New Thought will acknowledge freely that there are so many flavors of New Thought and flavors within the teachings, and there is no dogma within it. Finally, on that last point, I'd like to stress that a practical spirituality has inherent in it choice. You have the choice to follow the parts of it that work for you and not choose the parts that don't. There is not a dogmatic set that everybody has to follow. So you get to build the spirituality that works for you and grows you and assists your material life, but also grows and expands you into claiming that spiritual nature and moves you along your spiritual evolutionary path. So choice is a key characteristic. So there you have it. My thoughts on what's a practical spirituality. I hope you found this helpful as you've explored that question to find what is a spiritual path that is going to assist me in moving into my next and highest expression of who I am. If you have characteristics of a practical spirituality you'd like to share with me, leave them in the comment field. And if you got ideas for videos you'd like me to see, drop me a note. My email address is on the screen. Thanks. Until next time. Hey, one more quick thing. I'd love it if you subscribe to the channel. The link is down there on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. Also, there's a related video you might want to watch. It's right next to my face. And if you like this video, be sure to click like and leave me a comment on YouTube. Thanks.